Hey everybody, Dr. Grant here, and today we're going to be talking about specifically the supplements that actually eliminate HD symptoms. So I want to kind of preface with this because I think the very first and foremost important thing that I always say about with my patients and clients is that every person is unique. Every HD person is not the same, and individualized treatment is how you're going to find to have the best type of treatment or supplementation or foods, diet, any of that kind of stuff that's going to actually work effectively for your ADHD. So that I need to preface that first and foremost, more than anything else. But I do want to share with you the experiences I've had with my patients and clients and what have actually eliminated their ADHD symptoms. So it first comes down to really looking at first and foremost, really about the neurotransmitter pathway. We're all very familiar with, and if you're not, where basically dopamine and also norepinephrine tend to be the two biggest things with ADHD usually being deficient. But I'm here to tell you that is not always the case. In fact, I'd say probably maybe 50% of the time it is a dopamine problem, and 50% of the time it's probably not. And so I think this is why it's important to first really do investigative work to understand what can be the actually best supplements that are going to eliminate your ADHD symptoms. So this very first patient that I want to kind of share with his experience, what he was experiencing in and out of struggling with trying all sorts of different supplements, and he couldn't really kind of resolve, and even his medications weren't really at the point that he, to help him with his ADHD, was causing him more anxiety. But he had a lot of lack of motivation and drive. And I know a lot of you guys who experience ADHD definitely experienced that a lot. And on top of that, he had a hard time focusing, and he was going in between jobs, and he just really was struggling here. And so when I was working with him, some of the biggest things that I love seeing is when we do this investigative work to really understand the reasons why certain supplements or certain medications don't work for particular certain people. Now, in this case, when we ran his test, his dopamine levels were definitely really low. And his tyrosine levels were really low. And usually when I see these spiked, that can explain more why the medications don't work. But in this case, either he wasn't getting enough or just wasn't the right medication that was improving his dopamine levels. So in this case, the best actually supplement that was for him to really help eliminate his ADHD symptoms was something called that I like using is Dopa Boost. Now, the reason why I like Dopa Boost, I'm not sponsored with any supplements. I just use what works and what makes sense to give to my patients. And the reason why I really like this one is specifically, it's going to come down to more about the tyrosine, so N-L-tyrosine, to help improve his tyrosine that he was low in, and also mucuna which if you look at the neurotransmitter pathway, it's considered basically L-Dopa. It helps improve L-Dopa, which is going to improve his dopamine and norepinephrine levels. Okay. And when he took this, I remember it was just like 2 days later, he told me, "Oh my goodness, I haven't felt like this ever, where I feel more focused, more motivated, is more effective than any kind of medication I've taken or any supplement that I've ever taken. It's like a night and day difference. Thank you so much." Now, that is a very rare experience where I see someone actually within just a few days. Usually it takes about a week or two, sometimes like a month before someone actually starts really noticing a big effects, because supplements do take time. But when someone is so deficient, this is when you actually really can start seeing that certain supplementation and certain foods can really start eliminating definitely your ADHD symptoms. So with this case, with this patient, most certainly did, because we did investigative work. We actually looked at testing first before even diving into that. Okay. So now the next case, now this is definitely very common with a lot of my patients that come in for issues because of their ADHD. And a lot of times you could see that their dopamine levels are just fine. And like I said, about 50% of the case, they are fine. So then what? Well, if you see here, phenylalanine, also known as PEA, is deficient. And this is something I see a lot. I would say probably about 80% of the time, I will see these tend to be low with people with ADHD because I consider it actually a better marker for really looking to see if someone has ADHD, because I see this tends to be usually low with ADHD more so than dopamine. And so when this is low, which is right at the very beginning of the dopamine pathway. So you would think you need to address something that's at the beginning and not something directly in the middle. I mean, yes, you want to address something that's in the middle, but when there's an issue at the very beginning, you want to make sure that you're improving that. So adding something like D-L-phenylalanine, so right here, which helps build PA and also tyrosine, L-dopa, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and so forth. So this is definitely one that it's also something that's helped and benefited my own ADHD. It's probably one of my favorites because I tend to be low in PA. At least initially I was, but not so much anymore. But that made the drastic improvement within my memory, my focus, and a lot of different other ADHD symptoms I had. So this is definitely one that does help eliminate a lot of different ADHD symptoms when we do test for this to making sure that there is deficient in the first place. Now, let's look at some other possibilities that could be also out of balance here. There's obviously the norepinephrine, like in this case with this patient that I had, and epinephrine as well as serotonin. So now we got to look at the other pathway is the serotonin pathway. So if we go back to the pathway for serotonin right here, serotonin is really important for our mood, our motivation, our just how well our happiness. It's what we call is like the happy chemical, and if it's deficient, it's definitely going to impact you. It also can impact your sleep too. So what I usually will incorporate with this is 5-HTP and also L-tryptophan, because tryptophan is what helps build 5-HTP, and 5-HTP builds serotonin. So both of those can definitely be very powerful and effective if you are deficient in something like serotonin. Now, on the flip side, something like being deficient in norepinephrine and epinephrine, like this person is, you want to add something like L-theanine. L-theanine is really great for not only for epinephrine, norepinephrine, but also for serotonin and also dopamine. Helps bring those levels up to where they naturally need to be. And when I incorporate this definitely helped this person not only feel better in their mood and feel more happy, but also helped a lot with their focus and their motivation when we incorporate these things, because we found that these were deficient. Now, this one I find is more of a rare case. I presented this one before, but I think this is very, viable for what we're talking about today about what can actually eliminate ADHD symptoms with supplements specifically. So I rarely kind of see where someone is deficient in almost every single area, but it does happen. And usually these people are going to feel both depressed, they're going to have high anxiety, and they're going to have a severe ADHD symptoms such as lack of motivation, focus, drive, all those things. Okay. So when I see something like this, usually we have to incorporate a lot more supplementation and nootropics, but also eventually over time, eliminating the supplements and using food as medicine and lifestyle as medicine. Supplements are great as a stepping stone, but over time, we need to make sure that we're focusing on what can be long lasting to have consistent results. And that's always going to come down to lifestyle changes as well as nutrients to incorporate. But just to get the thing going and helping improve, usually when someone's deficient in this, we've already talked about a Dopa boost because he's deficient in dopamine, tyrosine. Those are really important, as well as norepinephrine. He's also deficient in serotonin, so we also going to add 5-HTP, L-tryptophan. He's deficient in PA. We're going to add D-L-phenylalanine, L-theanine, because he's deficient in all the different neurotransmitters. Also GABA. L-theanine is a great one because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and helps improve GABA levels. GABA has a lot to do with our mood, and so therefore it's something really great to incorporate. L-glutamine and glycine. Those also help build a lot of different neurotransmitters. So it's really, really critical to implement something like L-glutamine and glycine if you're deficient in it, like this person was, right? He's deficient. Now, what about this thing called histamine that he was deficient in right here? I know I'm like just drawing all over the place. It's getting a little messy here, but histamine is really important as a driver to build and modulate neurotransmitters. A lot of people think it's just for like red itchy eyes and causing inflammation. It is, but it also is used to help build and modulate also neurotransmitters. So if you're deficient in it, you want to add something like L-histidine, and this will definitely help eliminate this. So this person, once we incorporate all this, he told me, he's like, I have never felt like this before. I spent years and years with health issues, especially with my ADHD, and haven't been able to find any kind of medication or supplementation that has really kind of helped me. And now incorporating this, I'm like a new person. I'm able to function. I'm a happier boss. My spouse is happier with me because I am a better functioning human being, and I can remember things. I can focus better. My mood is better. I'm not cranky. Like all these great things, because when you are this deficient on these different areas, you're like in critical condition is what I is how I say it, when you're in this severity. Okay. So there's a few other things I think we have to look at past just the neurotransmitters, because I think those are really big, but also possibly a micronutrient tests that help build a lot of different neurotransmitters. So something like B vitamins, right? I think this is kind of overlooked a lot, but like this person, they're deficient in several different B vitamins. Vitamin B3, vitamin B5, even vitamin B6, I would say, is a little bit more on the deficient side too. And so we would add something like B complex, because a lot of, especially vitamin B6, helps build a lot of these different neurotransmitters. So it's very, very vital. But also vitamin D helps with energy and mood. Vitamin K is also really important for cardiovascular health, but it's also good to incorporate along with vitamin D3 because it's another fat soluble to incorporate. What about choline? Choline is something I do see as a common issue with adults with ADHD, especially if you're 40 and above, that we start seeing this deficient. In fact, it can be an issue with someone like with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease, which, if you didn't know, people with ADHD have a higher severity of developing something like Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease. In fact, we have a 54% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease than the average person. And Parkinson's disease is 2.4 times likelihood, because we already have a neurological issue. Okay. So it's good to prevent this. So I will see choline levels tend to deplete. So something like phosphatidylcholine can help with that. And that can help with a lot with memory issues. Okay. If you're starting to have memory issues with your ADHD, it's possible you could have a choline issue, but also even serine. So adding something like phosphatidylserine could be also incorporated, just like this person was. And also CoQ10 can definitely impact your energy, which definitely is going to impact your focus, motivation as well. They kind of go tie and tie together, is low energy, focus issues. And so I always want to make sure that we're covering our bases if you're dealing with a exhausted state, which most adults with ADHD tend to. Now, another one that's also important to look at is omegas. So omega-3s, so looking at EPA and DHEA. EPA is more for cardiovascular health, and DHEA is more for the brain health. So in this case, this person was deficient here. So we add a higher ratio EPA versus DHEA, but it's definitely going to help the overall health, but also can help if you're deficient more within DHEA, then of course we want a higher ratio of that. Okay. But these are definitely huge ones to definitely always be considering. Now, it's also important to look at, could there be a possibility of something other than the brain chemistry, other than micronutrients that are dealing with our brain chemistry? Yes, there most certainly can. We have to look at the body as a whole to understand there could be some other issues that we're missing. And it gets missed all the time by doctors all the time, and especially adults with ADHD. And that's looking at possibly hormones. So something like testing for cortisol. It's a huge one. I see this a problem time and time again with my patients. And when we test cortisol, just like this patient, where first thing in the morning, it's super low. So therefore you're going to feel groggy. You're not going to be focused. You're going to have low energy. And in some cases, it could happen throughout the entire day. Not with this patient, but I've seen it time and time again with patients too, where it can be low throughout the day and you just can't function throughout the day. But you could be like this person, where it's low in the morning, and all of a sudden spikes in the afternoon. You feel stressed in the afternoon. You feel stressed at night, just like this person, where cortisol levels are too high. So what do you do in this case? So in this case, you want to add something like adrenal desk kit or adrenal support just only first thing in the morning to get that boost of energy. okay, and help them with the focus and getting those cortisol levels right in the green zone. Then, if you're someone that like gets in that high spiked in the afternoon or evening, you add something like cortisol manager that has things like ashwagandha, has things such as like magnolia, has things such as like because ashwagandha actually is something that reduces cortisol. Even rhodiola is a great one that can reduce cortisol. And so that's when you would want to incorporate it because you're too high stress and you want to manage your cortisol. So that's one of my favorite ones that helps eliminate a lot of these different ADHD symptoms. But guess what? It's looking at a different angle because with the low energy, it made your ADHD symptoms worse. So if we actually tackle that, just like this patient, you're going to find that eliminates a lot of your ADHD symptoms. So you want to make sure you're addressing in all different angles with your body chemistry, not just the brain, but all the different aspects that could be impacting your ADHD brain significantly. But we got to make sure also we're testing other hormones. So like testing, so for example, like this patient, they had low progesterone. So we added natural progesterone cream because that can impact mood as well. It can impact your ADHD brain significantly. And then of course, someone like this having low testosterone and DHEA, you want to add something like testogain to help improve testosterone, DHEA to help improve DHEA, which does build testosterone and estradiol. Simplex M is another one I like to use to help improve testosterone and just something great for also for males' health, people who are males, to incorporate that. But by doing this, like this definitely helped this patient's energy and their focus by just adding the Simplex M and the Testogain and the DHEA. Whereas the woman patient that I had just added the natural progesterone cream that helped a lot with the mood and kind of the mood swings along with ADHD and the frustration around that. And so that helped improve with that too. So the other thing we can't forget is the gut. The gut and brain are very interconnected at 90 to 95% of our neurotransmitters are actually made in the gut. So if your gut's not working optimally, guess what? Your brain's not going to work optimally. So what I usually like to look at is to look at pH, the stomach acidity. And usually we test that through urine to see how well stomach acidity is going on there. You want to make sure you have a good balance of breaking down and building your foods. And if you're running too alkaline, so above like 6.4, again, this is the urine pH. I'll add something like betaine HCl. And usually if that is a problem, usually we need to also incorporate pancreatic enzymes to help support the digestive system, to help breaking down your foods. So there's a couple processes when it comes to breaking down foods. One is definitely the stomach acidity helps break down the foods. And then the pancreatic enzymes bind to the different micronutrients, fats, proteins, and carbs, and making sure you're breaking down those with proper pancreatic enzymes. We tend to get really deficient with our enzymes as we get older, so it's good to actually use that as continuous supporting your digestive system. Then it's looking at your gut microbiome. So sometimes I might test this if someone's dealing with severe digestive issues. We want to make sure that there's no imbalances, which in this case they did, and have more of a balanced gut flora. So we'll add specific targeted probiotics that kind of target the ones that they're out of balance and implement that if that's the case. And because that's also really important to have good gut flora. So if you really are wanting to like find this information for yourself, for your own ADHD and focus, it requires that further investigation. If you really want to eliminate your ADHD symptoms and have those gone and have to do it in a more natural way, it's going to require further investigation. And I would would love to help you out and serve you guys and to be able to do so. You can book a consultation with me. Most people like trying to figure this stuff out, like how I had to figure it out. I had to go to medical school and continue education, and I still continue to do so. I've spent well over $500,000 to try and figure this out, and I have been, but you don't need to do that. I've already done the heavy lifting for you. And so really what I'm offering is you can book a 45-minute consultation with me, and that's a $750 value. Plus, it's also, we do an in-depth client questionnaire that's $197 value that really reads in between the lines with your ADHD situations that you've probably never been asked about. And then, of course, I give you access to our nutrition lifestyle tracking app. That's a $300 value. And this is something I use with all my patients and clients to be able to really track all the macro, but also all the micronutrients, your sleep cycles, your bowel movements, water intake, I mean, your blood pressure, sugar levels, all sorts of different things. So it's a really great tool that we use with our patients and clients that you get access to. And then on top of that, if you do purchase today, you get access to my ADHD health course, which is $597 value. And so a full value of $1,844. You get it all for only today for just $297. So all you have to do is just click on the link in the description below. Once you have clicked in the link in the description below, it'll take you to this page. You'll put in your information, you'll purchase. Then this is very important. You're going to hit the book now button. And then you're going to come to this page. You're going to select practitioner. So you'll select me. You'll pick a date and time. So please do pick a date and time that both you, if you have a significant other or a spouse, please pick a time that they can be present, because I usually like to see an outside perspective of the spouse, the challenges that you're having with your ADHD. So please have them present there. This is a very important decision. And also it's very important to understand the challenges that your spouse or your significant other sees. And I'd like to have that info. And so if you can pick a time that both you and your significant other can be present, please have them pick a date and time for that time. And then, of course, fill out your information here. And then this is also very important. Once you have booked your date and time, definitely check your email for your confirmation email that will have the Zoom provided link for appointment. The second email will also be from Practice Better. This is how you're going to basically activate your Practice Better account. That's our client portal. That's also how you get access to the lifestyle nutrition app. It's also how you fill out the client questionnaire. And also if you have any labs, to upload it. If you have any labs, standard labs in the past year, definitely upload those. If you haven't, it's not a requirement, but definitely do that. Make sure to fill out the client questionnaire as well. And then to make sure to block out the time, about 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes we'll go a full hour if we need to, and definitely show up early. So if you guys really want to take advantage, finally eliminating your ADHD symptoms, and identify the root causes of the issue, I'd love to help you out. All you got to do is book that link in the description below. And I hope to see you guys in the inside, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Thanks.